I'm extremely proud that I am employee number 1 of Infosys. I'm also equally happy that for better part of the first 2 decades of Infosys journey, I was given the responsibility for human capital management at Infosys. I met Murthy first at Walchand Nagar Industries. So at that time, I was working with Walchand Nagar Industries as a systems analyst. And Walchand Nagar was going to use the digital data general computer systems, for which Patni Computer Systems became the agents, and Murthy was number 1 employee, was head of software there. So he had come to train all of us. So that is how I met Murthy there. But of course, after the training, I started using the data general computer at the ACC headquarters in Bombay, where I used to go and use the computer time to develop software for Walchand Nagar Industries there. And then after a while, I left Walchand Nagar. I got a job at Union Carbide headquarters in Bombay. So at that time, Bhopal tragedy had not occurred inside. So I joined the company and I went to my manager, Prithvi Raj, I think is his name. I told him they were going for a PDP machine, DEC computer systems PDP machine. I told him, why are you not looking at data general computer? Why were you looking at PDP? He said, yeah, what's the difference? Why is it better? Then I told him various features of data general which are much better than what PDP is. Then he said, can you prove it to me that all this really works? I said, okay. So then I went to Murthy and met him and said, I want some computer time on ACC. I want to show my boss that these things do work. Then he said, okay, no problem, I'll definitely give you time. I said, you sit down, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. He said, look, I'm desperately looking for a senior person to support me, why can't you join me? I said, it's less than a week since I joined a multinational company, and you asked me to join a startup company. And as it is, I am the only person having 2 kids going to school. At this stage, it's a big risk. So I don't know, I have to think about it. Then he said, no, Raghavan, see, for people like you and me, what is important is challenging job satisfaction, and something doing worthwhile. Otherwise, it will be multinational, but you will rot there, you will not get anything. You will not have job satisfaction. So here we will grow and all that, there's a lot of opportunity. Join PCS rules. So he was, again, as I said, he's a very persuasive speaker. So I said, give me one day, I'll just have to consult my family and see, because it's a big decision and big risk for me, because I don't have any money backup to manage in case something happens here. So as Jamra was saying that my father-in-law was, he was retired as he was number 2 in Indian Airlines at that time. He had just retired as a financial advisor and chief accounts officer. So he was very unhappy when I left government and joined Walchand Nagar. I was in central government core of EME. So now, at least he was happy that I joined a multinational, that I'm leaving it and joining a new startup. So he said, and he, being a conservative man, that he said, anyway, it's your decision. So you have taken so many steps and you seem to have done well. Then we said, yeah, there is a risk involved, but I think we have taken so many risks and I'm not worried about job security. So if something happens, I can get some other job anytime, not a worry. So after leaving Patni's, when we decided to start Infosys, we had to register it. So it was a partnership firm at the time. So then we had to quickly register it. Then I said, what is the address? It was in Tampa, Florida. Actually, when we went for the first time to the airport, I remember Rohini had come, and I don't know whether you had come or not. So we were there and our names were not there in the list. So we had to come back and left after 3 days. So anyway, Tampa, Florida was a good experience. So it was Downlights at that time who was running the show, and we were helping them to develop software for various clients. And we were living in a place called Dauphine Apartments, I still remember. Myself, Nandan, Dinesh and Ashok Arora were the 4 people. A couple of more guys may be there. So we used to get up very early in the morning, and I used to cook. I'm the cook there, so I used to cook, and then we used to take a very early bus. Every 1 hour there used to be a bus from different apartments to the office we had to go. And we used to take the bus and go there and come back and all that. That was the first project we did. Mountain Home was a small town in Arkansas, though it's supposed to be second biggest next to Little Rock, but it is a small town. And it suited us because the kind of monthly money that we were given, I don't want to talk about that much. So it was very meager because we had to be very careful with our expenditures at that time. So Mountain was ideally suited because it was not a very expensive town. That was a very nice experience with the family for the first time. So that is another project. So the other project that's also interesting is for Reebok France. So we stayed in Paris at the time in a small apartment. Myself, Murthy, Dinesh, and one Prahlad used to be there, and one more person, Roy, I don't forget his name. So in a small apartment we lived. I used to cook again. In fact, they had gone, Murthy and Dinesh had gone earlier. So when I joined after a month or so, I found all this ready-made MTR packages for sambar and all that. I cited through all of them and said, no, why do you want ready-made? We'll make it fresh. So I was the cook, and Murthy and Dinesh will cut and wash vessels and all that. As a team, we used to work together. We used to get up very early and make sambar rice and maybe curd rice together, pack it. And then we used to walk to the local railway train and take the train to go to Gardenor, that is the central railway station there. So given the tagline, powered by intellect and driven by values, I had to come out with very creative, innovative ideas and strategies to make sure that we adhere to these two objectives. Very early on, so I realized that to be a good software professional, especially commercial software development area, so you need to have high learnability. I defined learnability as the ability of the individual to derive generic knowledge from specific experiences and being able to apply such knowledge in new unstructured situations. But how do you evaluate, how do you assess whether some candidate has these abilities? So I had to come up with a few things, and I came with some aptitude tests, which I developed. One is called arithmetical reasoning test. Another is called analytical thinking test. So two aptitude tests were developed. These were found to be a lot more tougher than GRE or GMAT at that point of time. So it became actually a gold standard for us at the time. So much so it gave rise to some interesting and piquant situations. I'll give you just an example. So at that time we were looking for, desperately actually, because we didn't have a head for the education and research department. So I zeroed in on Professor K.V. Viswanathan, who was at that time was a computer science professor at IIM Calcutta. So I was very keen to get him on board. So I went to Murthy. Murthy is very good in convincing, persuading people. So I told him, look, Murthy, tomorrow Professor Viswanathan is coming. It's your job to convince him to join us because it's very important. He said, Raghavan, don't worry, I will do that, no problem at all. And he asked me, I hope you are conducting the aptitude test for him. So Murthy is a computer science professor in IIM. How can I ask him to take this test? He says, no, Raghavan, this is an important responsibility. We believe in this aptitude test. Give him the test. Let him say, no, let's see. Then we'll see what to do. So I said, okay, I'll try. So next day when KB came in, Professor Viswanathan, I was with a lot of trepidation. I told him, look, for people with experience, we have this aptitude test. and all that. Then he said, no, if you have something like that, I will take the test. I was very relieved. So, and of course, KV did very well in those tests and was the most successful head of education research at Infosys after that. I also realized at that time that given that most of our work is going to be related to software development in the commercial area, so we did not necessarily require computer science graduates. So as long as they have high learnability, we could get people from other engineering disciplines like mechanical engineering, civil engineering, aeronautical engineering. So we were the, I would say, first blue-blooded IT company at that time to go out and get people from other disciplines. So nobody else was doing it. So because of this, I was able to attract a lot of high-ranking students from IITs, for instance. So I attracted a lot of people, and therefore we had a good opportunity to get the best talent. But getting people on board is one thing, but how do you keep them? So talent retention was the biggest challenge. Given that as it is, they go through a good screening process and only best can come in. And then we provide excellent training. And the experience they get is also very valuable, much beyond the years of experience they have, the kind of job they do. So again, I had to come up with some innovative strategies. The first was, of course, I made use of the ESOP, Employee Stock Option Plan, that came around, fortunately, in the right time for us. So I used it to make sure that after allotment, the vesting period is over a period of years, slots, so that they stayed with us during the period because they didn't want to lose out on that money. So that was a good strategy, it was useful. Then I came up with an interest-free loan scheme. First I started with a two-wheeler loan. So by the time they paid up this two-wheeler, I gave them a four-wheeler car loan. By the time they finished repaying that, I gave him a housing loan. By the time they would have spent a few years. So with this loan scheme, I was able to give them some financial support, which they were very happy about. Of course, finance alone will not keep people. So the kind of job, the kind of challenges, intellectual challenges they get, the satisfaction that they derive from doing that job was very important. Fortunately, the kind of things they were doing is much beyond their experience level. So that kept them very happy. I remember at the initial period, we used to send people to customer sites and they would ask for the resume of these people, send me the resumes, the client will approve. That's what our marketing manager will tell us. And we used to send some resumes and the customer will go through it and then they say, these two are selected, please send them. But I said, no, this model will not work for us because these people do not have experience. They were expecting people with experience of 10, 12 years. Whereas for that kind of work, we had people with 4, 5 years experience only. So I said, this resume thing will not work. And I told Devdutt Yellurkar, was there at the head of marketing in USA. I told Devdutt, it is your responsibility to go to the client and tell him, I will not get a resume. I will send these 2 or 3 people. Let them try them out for 2 months. At the end of 2-month period, if they're not happy about their performance, send them back and we will not charge them anything. I am ready to take that responsibility, but you have to convince the clients. They have said, okay, so if that's the reality I have to manage, I will manage the clients. So that's how we stopped sending resumes. So because I had to do with brilliant people, they are capable of doing it, but they don't have experience to show in the document. So that is another innovative thing we did, and I had so much confidence in them. I remember one instance, I think Raghavan, my namesake, and one more person went there. So, I was worried because, and suddenly they decided to change the platform on which they are being developed. We trained them on one computer platform, and after reaching there, they said, no, we are going to. I said, my God, how are they going to cope up with this? But fortunately, given the high learnability, they did manage well. And after 2 months, the client was very happy. It's a matter of great satisfaction for me that most of the first 1,000 employees of Infosys or Infosians were personally selected, tested, interviewed and recruited by me. Offhand, I can think of Srinath Bhatni, Yogi Praveen Rao, A.S. Krishnamurthy, Anuradha Hegde and so many. So, and these people, along with our strategy of talent retention, stayed with Infosys, and they became the pillars, the real infrastructure support for the edifice that you have built today with 350,000 people you are talking about. The pillars and foundation was laid by these 1,000 people who stayed with us and provided strong support. Then coming to values that we're very keen on, integrity, transparency, fairness, these are all very important for us. And we'll never allow anybody to violate this. I will give an example. So why fairness was very important to me. As I told you earlier, so we are taking non-computer science graduates also. But 1 year, these computer science employees with that background came to me and told me, sir, we are all having 4 years of computer science background. Can't you at least give a token recognition to us that without your training, we're self-sufficient and you can deploy us in anywhere, including system software and all that. Therefore, we have some plus points, so just give us a token recognition. It looked to be a reasonable request. I said, oh, why not? So in the next pay revision, I have given a few 100 rupees of extra for all these computer science graduates. And in those days, I used to personally go, when the revision letter was given, call a group of people, keep them in a conference room and explain to them what was the revision strategy we had, what we did and all that stuff, and address them and then give them the increment letters to them. So after I came back to my office, suddenly I had a delegation of 3-4 people, and one of them said, look, I am a second ranker from IIT Madras, a mechanical engineer, and when you came to our campus, you promised us that there will be no discrimination, we'll be treated like computer science graduate, there will be no discrimination. Now I see the difference. It doesn't matter if it's token or not, but we should be treated equally. That's what you have promised, and you are breaking your commitment. And I said, he's got a right question, so what do I do? I said, fair enough, I will definitely do something. Then what I did was, I said, okay, so now that I've given, I cannot take it back. I will say for this year only, this will be applied, next year onwards, this won't be applicable. So, able to react to what the employees said, their grievances, their issues, and address them openly, transparently, was very, very important. My message to the youngsters of today is that your expectations have to be reasonable. You should know your strengths and weaknesses, and from that, you have a reasonable expectation. And as long there is a job satisfaction that you are doing something which is worthwhile, I think then you should go after those kind of things. Don't worry about money, extra money and little less money, and then don't get worried about the smaller aspect. The biggest aspect is you have a lot of opportunities everywhere. So choose something which gives you satisfaction that I am doing worthwhile. So I am being challenged every day. So I would love to come to office and work because I am happy doing this job. So I think Infosys has a lot to offer. So Infosys is built on the premise that the job that is given to you will be very challenging, and you have to really put your best to do the work. So if you love the challenge, Infosys is the right place.